They both have 4 sides.
Okay, they both have 4 sides, that's true.
And
Are they equal?
yes.
Is
No.
In Math RTI, when students continue to struggle despite high-quality Tier 1 instruction and interventions, they receive additional Tier 2 interventions.
With Tier 2 interventions, we go a little more in depth than from Tier 1. We want to offer smaller groups for students. We want to give students more time to think about math and to do math. And we want to provide as many hands-on opportunities and strategies as possible for our struggling learners. Yesterday, we worked with single-digit addition and some two-digit addition problems.
Tier 2 interventions are based on assessment data and target clearly identified math skills. Interventions at the Tier 2 level are provided by a variety of personnel.
30, 40, 50.
This section is organized around 4 key questions. How do educators determine the focus of Tier 2 math interventions? When do Tier 2 math interventions take place? What are some ways to optimize Tier 2 interventions for struggling learners? How long do Tier 2 math interventions continue? These questions provide a framework for maximizing Tier 2 interventions for struggling learners across a wide range of programs, resources, and student needs.
The only rule you have to remember is,
As teachers work with students in Tier 1, they are able to assess students' response to instruction and identify those in need of additional, focused Tier 2 interventions.
Tier 2 is based on student needs. What are my students deficit in? What are the skills that I need to work on? And to do that and to gather our data, we can use probes. And a probe can be anywhere from 2 to 5 problems to as much as 1 to 2 pages, depending on the grade level of the student and where they are academically.
A math probe enables teachers to identify specific skills to target for Tier 2 intervention.
Check for mistakes.
As teachers observe students during the probe, they watch for use of fingers, any hesitations, or other pertinent information.
Okay, have another 2-minute probe that we're going to do. Same directions.
Teachers may need to administer more than one probe to identify skills to be targeted.
And with that data, we want to start looking specifically at the skills that need to be strengthened by our struggling learners. And within that probe, then I'm going to grade the data. Then I'm going to look specifically at the skills that my students are deficit in. So once we've done a probe with the students, then we want to start graphing our data. I need to graph where that process is each time to see if I'm making growth with that particular student.
Graphing student progress in learning a targeted skill is one way to closely track each struggling learner's response to intervention and adjust instruction as needed.
So you need to develop a baseline and then chart your progress for your probes and then develop your teaching strategies and skills around that particular thing.
So if you look in the packet I gave you, you're going to find a plus delta chart for math.
A plus delta chart is another way to organize data to determine the specific focus of Tier 2 interventions.
Let's just go ahead and look at the strengths that child brings. So let's do that for all of our Tier 2 students. Then on the delta side, we can go through and look at those specific student expectations.
Student strengths are listed on the plus side. Skills targeted for intervention are on the delta side of the chart.
You're going to notice at the bottom,
Reviewing the charts will enable teachers to identify skills to be targeted and group students with similar needs.
But you choose whatever you wish to make that $1, and I want you to put it on your mat.
Clearly identifying the focus of instruction sets the stage for effective Tier 2 interventions for struggling students.
Is that showing us 11:30?
Tier 2 interventions are an addition to the classroom Tier 1 math program. Schools create extra time for Tier 2 interventions based on the needs of their students, their daily schedules, and their staff.
I want you to help me fill this out so that we can do an activity.
Interventions at the Tier 2 level may occur before, during, or after school.
200.
Okay, you have 2 hundreds,
6 tens.
6 tens.
Tier 2 interventions may be provided by specialists, support staff, or classroom teachers, according to each school's situation.
Can you read this for me? What time does this read?
10:35.
10:35. Do you agree?
Yes.
Okay, let's see if he is correct. Is he correct?
Yes.
Lessons may take place outside of the general classroom setting,
So let's give Antonio a point.
or, depending on staff availability and student needs, small group sessions may occur in classrooms, in addition to Tier 1 instruction.
So it's still important for Tier 2 students to remain into the Tier 1 classroom for math instruction. But the goal of Tier 2 is to just offer added support, extra support, additional alternatives for strengthening those math skills outside of the regular classroom. Boys and girls, today we're going to talk about time. What do you know about time?
There are a number of ways to optimize Tier 2 math interventions for struggling learners.
What else? What do you know about time?
Tier 2 interventions work best with small groups of students.
Now, generally, if we're working with students in Tier 2, 2 to 5 is the type of groups that we want to have.
Small groups enable teachers to closely guide struggling learners.
It also gives us the opportunity to closely monitor students' responses, which is key to working with our intervention strategies in Tier 2. What time do you get up in the morning?
Students' responses to initial questions are a good indication of their current level of understanding.
Andrew, what time do you get up? Sometimes students are reluctant to participate when you're doing activities. So what do? We want to start at the concrete level. Bring in those manipulatives to model, to show that representation, to keep the students working and actively engaged in the process. I've taken the entire clock and I've made it into a number line. Do you see that?
25, 30, 35, 40.
After confirming that students understand that the number lines represent hours and minutes,
Let's see if I can stump you.
the next step is to have students tell time using the number lines.
Andrew, you have any idea?
11.
Let's count.
At each step of the way, teachers provide the level of support students need to accomplish the targeted skill.
Oh, perfect! And I keep moving forward and asking questions. Now, does it make any difference as to how do I read the numbers now?
No.
Just because I'm in a circle? Why?
It's still in order.
It's still in order? What else? Still doing the same thing, still in order.
They still have the same numbers.
Still going to get the same numbers, still going to get the same time, so it doesn't matter if I'm in the number line form or if I'm in a circular form, correct? And then you make it harder and harder and more challenging for students. You want to show that progression and accelerate that learning for students. If 8 minutes has passed since I asked him to move that, can you please move it to 8 minutes past where his 16 stopped? Where would his 8 minutes move? Can you move the arrow for me? You can scoot up if you need. Where would it be? So we know he's here, and we're going to move it 8 minutes. How many minutes would I move it? Can you show me?
When students are challenged by a task during Tier 2 interventions, extended support enables many struggling learners to grasp the concept.
We're going to move here. Think about it for just a moment.
If students continue to struggle, teachers are able to assess the extent of their lack of understanding.
And I do that based on students' response. I look at their faces for signs of confusion, and then I look at their responding. If I've asked a question, is it taking time for them to respond? Are they struggling with the question that I asked? So let's count 8 minutes. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So would that be 8 minutes past? So what would my time be? Now, what happens if I have a child that's just not getting it? It may take me several times of breaking it down from abstract back to concrete, from concrete to semi-abstract, just so that students are getting that feel of how does this work?
It's still the same thing.
So what if I have some students within my group that are getting it? In the time activity, there was a student who was responding very quickly.
It's just like a number line.
Just like the number line, except we've gone from the number line to a what?
Circle.
Circular form. If she's mastering the content and she has knowledge of the elapsed time, then let me move her out and let me work a little closely with those who aren't getting it, because they need more time to do and to respond and to think and to question. Zachary, what's my time?
506.
506. Do you agree or disagree?
I agree.
I agree. Okay, Zachary, it's up to you.
Tier 2 interventions often incorporate the same materials across grade levels. Struggling students at all ages rely on concrete tools to support their math learning.
What are you thinking, Zachary? When we're focused on Tier 2, sometimes we get too focused on teaching the lesson. We get so driven on, I've got to implement this lesson, I'm going to teach it, that we lose sight of our students' responses and how they are responding to that lesson. I see you looking. Tell me what you're thinking.
I'm thinking it goes right here.
He thinks it goes right there. Tell me why you think it goes right there. Are my students responding to the content that I'm giving them? Do I need to have a little more time for students to respond? Do I need to provide more open-ended questions and think time for my students?
Because I looked at this number and went here.
Oh, perfect. Okay, do you agree or do you disagree?
I agree.
Oh, that was a toughie, wasn't it? We often talk about Tier 2 interventions as being intensive. But I think a better word is to make them more focused. Chance, let's see if you have made our highest number possible.
Focused interventions can incorporate a variety of means and materials. Using different activities to target the same learning objective keeps struggling learners focused and on task.
Our goal is to race to 100. So is there anything I can do right now with what we have to trade up to 100?
Math games are a motivating way to practice almost any concept or skill.
Okay, let's add our points and let's see what we've got.
80, 90, 100.
What can you do?
With active participation come opportunities for enhancing students' math understanding.
Do you have enough here?
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10.
So can I trade these? 4 flat? How do you know?
Because it's a 100.
Because it's a 100.
Ready, go. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Now one more. Ready? 1. What did we just do? Giovannis.
5 plus 1 equals.
Our goal is to engage our students both mentally and physically.
Getting them up and moving and doing something physical is another great way to help them internalize math concepts.
3 smiling fish plus 1 more.
Providing multiple pathways to learning in Tier 2 math interventions increases the success of struggling learners.
What number sentence?
3 plus 1 equals 4.
Beautiful. Will you come up and write that, please?
A, A, B, C, A, A.
Math is sequential, and it builds on scaffolding, and that's what we want to work with Tier 2. What are those students missing so that I can find that and put that back into place? So how do I make the most of my time for Tier 2? The goal is to move my students forward, to accelerate their learning. Okay, Jesus, go ahead and put what comes next.
Accelerating students' learning relies on lesson pacing. Rather than slowing down instruction for struggling learners, teachers will want to start with what students know and steadily prompt them to new learning.
I have A, B.
To keep the lesson progressing, teachers frequently verify students' understanding.
I like a yellow next.
No.
Why not?
Because it's starting a pattern. Because A is yellow.
Oh, and that's a different...
And this is a different letter.
Now, here's a challenging question that I have for you. What is the core of the pattern? Hey, Antonia, I haven't heard from you.
A, B, C.
Okay, A, B, C. That's the core? Destiny, why do you think this is the core of the pattern?
Because
Jesus. Remember? Think about what the
it keeps
core...
on all starting over and starting over.
As students continue to respond to Tier 2 interventions, teachers will want to maintain the learning momentum by moving on to another activity.
Get it, got it good?
Get it, got it good.
Targeted skill practice is vital to stepping up students' learning. Working with a similar problem gives struggling learners a chance to apply new skills.
What comes next, Jenny? Antonio, can you describe this pattern using letters?
A, B, B, C, C.
With the right balance of scaffolding and prompting, Tier 2 math interventions keep students at the cutting edge of their learning.
Can we say that that yellow one that you have in your hand is a hexagon?
Tier 2 intervention cycles are typically 8 to 12 weeks. Progress monitoring occurs weekly for struggling learners.
Yes.
Okay, Michael, how many vertices does that square have?
4.
As soon as students demonstrate a solid understanding of a concept, they exit Tier 2 at any point in a cycle.
My goal is to put them back into Tier 1 once they've mastered the content. And it may take me 2 to 4 weeks. It could take me as long as 8 to 12 weeks. But the ultimate goal is to put them back into Tier 1. And I need something else. What am I missing? If students aren't responding to Tier 2, what are my options? I want to change my instructional strategies. I want to change that to make it less challenging. Do I need to bring in more manipulatives into play and use that modeling and that coaching? Do I need to pull them for 30 minutes a day? Is 20 minutes not enough? So if we folded it where you have it, do you see your marks there? Will these be 3 equal pieces? They will be. And then if they're still not responding, what are my options? Well, certainly I want to work with my team of collaborators, and we're going to talk about some specific things. One of our decisions and a focus could be to look at Tier 3 interventions.
The major goal of Math RTI Tier 2 is to address the needs of struggling learners and reduce the number of students who need more intensive intervention.
What portion have I shaded?
When educators fine-tune their instruction, closely monitor students' responses, and make adjustments as needed, a majority of struggling learners will respond to Tier 2 math interventions.
What happened?
In Math RTI, intervention at the Tier 3 level is recommended by the RTI team, provided by the most qualified personnel, based on diagnostic assessments, and targeted to individual student needs.
Is that going to be equal? We look at RTI and students are not responding in Tier 2, and then we've gone to the option of Tier 3. What are we looking for then? Are students deficit in many areas in mathematics? Are the language skills for mathematics a deficit? Are they unable to comprehend and understand the vocabulary in working with math? Do we need to look at further testing and to offer more intense instruction in Tier 3?
So what do we notice here?
Tier 3 interventions target specific math skills and concepts, using strategies that suit the needs of each learner.
I think the goal is to broaden your alternative strategies. We want to make it as broad as possible to reach the needs of our students, regardless of what those are.
All right, do you have anything that makes 10 in your hand?
Mm-hmm. There's no one way to approach learning, particularly with struggling learners. We have to look at individual needs, individual assessment, individual learning styles.
Okay, let's get your nickels out of the bag. You have 5 nickels. Now we're going to try and count this again, okay?
When students respond to interventions tailored to their individual learning needs, they exit Tier 3. Even with teacher scaffolding and carefully selected Tier 3 interventions, a small number of students will continue to struggle.
And then if they're still not responding after that point, let's stop and take a look at maybe testing these students for special needs.
How many people are in each group?
2.
So we're looking at RTI as a framework. We need to build on the instruction that students are already getting in the generalized classroom. To look for skills that students may be deficit in, and then build upon that.
Hey, Antonia, I haven't heard from you.
We want to work with struggling learners, providing enrichment, activities, hands-on strategies, think alouds, opportunities to respond and reflect and react.
If there's children in that group,
and we want to look at collaboration, because that teamwork and collaboration is what's going to make us successful in finding goals and strategies and working with our struggling learners. RTI is engaging, making active learners out of passive learners, and it's creating an environment where students are enjoying and doing mathematics.
This is 10, 11. Oh, now I get it.
Oh, okay, let's do it. Do it. Tell me what you just did. What did you just think about?
10, 11, 12, 13.
And becoming successful mathematics learners.